Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Katwanga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Mataji.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Namrata Mataji. Radhika.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. It's sunny over there, Prabhu?
Huh?
Sunny over there for you?
Mother, I can't hear you.
She said early.
Early. Yes.
Sunny,
Yes.
sunny. Is it sunny weather?
Oh, it's very sunny, nice and sunny. It's 20 degrees.
Wow.
Went for a long walk today.
Oh, wow. That's why you look more fresh.
Hare Krishna, Mary.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Nice kirtan of you and your wife the other day. Very,
thank
very
you.
nice.
Thank
Beautiful.
you so much. Yeah, I was just kind of going along. She was the main one. She's a good singer.
You both sound very nice together. Beautiful.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Ram Priya Prabhu.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol, Hari
How are you? And Nand Kumar Prabhu has joined as well. Hare Krishna, Nand Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Hare Krishna, Radha Vinod Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Sham Sundari Mataji.
Hare Krishna. She's sitting on her separate iPad.
Yeah, that's good.
So we become two now. Before we were one, now we become two.
Lord Chaitanya has become Radha Krishna again. Hare Krishna, Sona.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I'm sorry. I'll have to keep the video off. A lot of cooking pending.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you.
No worries. And oh, there is Bhajan Nandan Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah, Dandavat Pranam. How are you?
Good, Prabhuji. How are you?
Good, very good. Rukmini Sudha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Where is your other half?
He's coming, Prabhu.
Okay. All right. So let us put the Pranami mantra on, and we can start. Oh, sorry. I have to share the screen, don't I? Share screen. Pranami mantra. Okay. Who's the brave soul today who would like to?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauramani Paracharine Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyade Shaditarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha kalpataru bhaccha kripa sindhu vavcha patitanam pavano bhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namah Vaishnavabhyo namo namah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Gautam Prabhu, how are you?
Good, how are you? Hare Krishna
Very
Prabhuji.
good. Sushma Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Venkat Prabhu. Who else is there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Nice Prabhu on your profile. Hare Krishna, Ashok Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Navneet.
Mataji kahan hai?
Sunana Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम
दंडवत प्रणाम आपको भी. Hare Krishna, Sudevi Mataji.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Bhadra Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Okay, so are there any questions from last week before we move on?
Prabhuji, I just want to clear my one doubt before we start.
Okay, sure.
My doubt is,
So one second, Prabhuji, one second. Let me mute everyone, and then I will unmute you. Okay, so just unmute yourself, Prabhuji, and ask the question.
okay, can I go ahead, Prabhuji?
Please go ahead. Yes.
Prabhuji, I was reading in the 7th chapter that when Prahlad Maharaj's father went, Hiranyakashipu went for austerity, his mother Kyadu was pregnant, and he was somehow, he ended up with the Saint Narad Muni's ashram. So what I understand, like she was pregnant at that time, so she must have wear Prahlad Maharaj in her womb for 100 celestial years. Is that right or not?
Yes, Prabhu, that's the only explanation. Otherwise, how could he be 5 years old?
Yeah, that's what I understand, but I just want to clarify that again, you know.
Very powerful woman.
Okay, that's it, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else has any questions? Okay, all right. So then let's get started. And I'm going to take you back to the point where we had left off. And just to bring back the context, you may recall that Shand and Amarka were the teachers for Prahlad Maharaj. And once they felt that they had sufficiently brainwashed Prahlad Maharaj and that he had now become a good demon, they brought him to his mother, and they told Hiranyakashipu that his son was doing very well in school and that these teachers were very proud of him. So then Mother Kayadhu gave Prahlad Maharaj nice bath, nice perfume, nice clothes, nicely decorated, and brought him to Hiranyakashipu, who was sitting on his throne. Hiranyakashipu saw this beautiful child. He felt very affectionate towards him, picked him up, and smelled his head, kissed him on the forehead, and very lovingly asked, "So, my dear Prahlad, what do you think is the best thing in life?" To which Prahlad Maharaj replied the verse that we were discussing last week towards the end of the class. Does anybody remember what that verse was?
Shravanam Kirtanam
Vishnu
Smaranam, Atmanivedanam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Vandanam. 9 processes of devotional
I
service.
got it. I got it. Yes. Yes. So you are absolutely right. The 9 processes of devotional service. Would you like me to put it back on the screen? Otherwise, I can just talk about this. Okay, I'll just talk about this then. So we discussed Shravanam, and what we said was that Shravanam means to hear, obviously, but it's more than just hearing. What it is really you're talking about hearing very attentively. So that's one point. Second thing is, and I'm going to ask you this, what is it that we are hearing?
Hearing and following,
No.
doing actions according to that.
No, bro, hear my question. You're talking about hearing. And my question is, what is it that you are hearing? That's
Hearing
Of
Babu
the
Krishna.
Lord's knowledge.
Sorry, one person at a time, please. One person.
What we are chanting.
I'm sorry?
What we are chanting, we are hearing.
And what are we chanting?
Hare
Lord's name.
Krishna, Prabhu's name.
Okay,
Hearing the glories of the Lord.
okay, so name the glories of the Lord. What else are we hearing?
Pastimes.
What has been explained in the scriptures.
Okay, all right, yes.
Hare Krishna name.
What else?
Lord's pastimes.
Pastimes, that's one. Absolutely, yes. What else?
Name, form, pastimes.
Sorry, Prabhu?
Name of the Lord,
So
form of
name
the Lord.
pastimes and
Name, form, pastimes of the Lord. 3 things.
sorry, Prabhu, I heard name, I heard pastimes. What's the third thing?
Yeah. Name, form
Form.
of the Lord.
Yes. So name, the form, the pastimes,
Pastimes.
anything else?
About his paraphernalia.
About his paraphernalia. Yes.
Okay, paraphernalia. What else?
Is it Mahamantra?
Devotees.
Devotees of the Lord. Okay. What else?
Radharani.
I'm sorry.
Radharani.
Oh, okay. Radharani. Okay.
Is it Mahamantra, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Well, that contains the names. So
No?
you already
Okay.
got no, right. But that's under the names. So one thing you're missing is the qualities.
Okay.
So it's a name, form, pastimes, qualities. And then everything else that you said is right. Devotees, Radharani, everything else. That's right. But that's what you're hearing. Okay? And so then, oh, somebody said instruction, Radhika. Thank you. Yes, absolutely right. Okay, and then next one was Kirtan. So I think somebody already answered that in a reverse way, which was we hear what we chant is correct, but then also chanting is having memorized what we heard, we are repeating those vibrations. That's Kirtan. What is the difference between Kirtan and Sankirtan? Who wants to tell me that?
Sankirtan and when you sit with people, lots of people, Kirtan by yourself.
Okay, Sankirtan she's saying is with lots of people, Kirtan by yourself. What else is the difference?
Sankirtan is when you do it with a group of people.
Got it. What else?
Then is when Prabhu you are reading something or you yourself hearing to yourself only, and Sankirtan when you are in association.
Yeah, so that's what my wife was saying also. I'm saying what more than that?
Kirtan about, again, Lord.
Okay, about the Lord, absolutely, yes. They gave that example last week. Kashmir ki kali hu main, mujhse na rootho, Baba ji is not. So we already talked about that, right? But what else? So Jiva Goswami says that when many people together, one thing, in a loud voice,
Okay.
chant for the pleasure of Krishna. That's the key thing. So it's not just about Krishna, it's for the pleasure of Krishna. So what's the difference if you're making this about Krishna versus for the pleasure of Krishna. What is the difference? Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
When sometimes people sing to show the people that they are good.
Yes.
And when we sing to please the Krishna.
Yes,
That's the
absolutely
difference.
right. When you're doing it for your own prestige and you want to show people how what a great singer you are, that's not pleasing Krishna at all. Okay, so it's for the glorification of Krishna, for remembering his pastimes, his glories, his form, his qualities. Then it's Sankirtan. Otherwise, not Sankirtan. It's just noise. Otherwise. Okay, the next one was Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam. What does that mean?
Remember to pray.
Remembering Vishnu.
Remembering, of course, that's translation. What else?
24
Chanting holy name.
Sorry? Sorry?
remembering 24/7.
What we
Comes later. Sorry?
what we heard, what we did in Shravanam, we tried Shravanam and Kirtan, but we tried to remember that.
Okay, so absolutely right. What else?
Establishing his four-hand form in the heart while chanting.
Sorry, Venkatbabu, say again.
Sorry. Establishing his four-hand form in the heart while chanting.
Okay, yes. Okay, so establishing his 400 form or 200 form in our heart. Yes. Katwanga Prabhu, you were saying?
Meditating on the Lord's feet of the Lord.
Meditating, absolutely right. Sorry, go ahead.
Hearing the stories, remembering the stories.
Yes, absolutely right. But the bottom line of Smaranam is trying to understand more and more about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the perfection of remembering is constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. That's the perfection of the remembering. And when we do that, then that leads to Padsevanam. So constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord is part of Padsevanam, believe it or not. So then the question is, what else comes under Padsevanam? Who would like to tell me? Yes. Sivapriya Mataji?
Constantly thinking about Padasevanam means every activity, whatever we do, is doing for Krishna.
So give me an example.
While cooking, we cook for the Krishna.
Yes.
And when we like to dressing him, we like to bathing him.
Yes.
When we sing for pleasing him, to entertain him. And when we are hearing, we are reading to hearing him, his pastime, because he likes to glorifying him.
Then let's not confuse it with chanting, right?
No, pastimes, leelas, and whatever we do for him.
Okay, all right. What else?
Doing all the activities, keeping Krishna in the center.
Okay.
Like Mataji said, cooking, so we are cooking for Krishna. Singing, we are singing for Krishna. Dancing, we are dancing for Krishna. Even when we are, like for example, we are taking the water, we are thinking of Krishna, like Krishna is in the water. So, and any service for the Krishna and his devotees.
So be careful. There's Archanam also. So we have to be
So
careful.
Prabhu, when you talk about Yashoda Maya, always remembering and glorifying Lord, putting him to sleep and all that. Do we consider that also here?
Sorry, Prabhu?
Yashoda Maya, right? Always glorifying Krishna, like putting him to sleep and waking him. Always, glorifying his past, his activity.
So glorifying him is not Padsevanam.
It will not come. Okay. So because he was thinking and glorifying, thinking and glorifying, right?
So that different things, Prabhuji. Let's not confuse them, right? So, for example, seeing the form of the Lord,
Okay.
okay, touching the form of the Lord, massaging his lotus feet, cooking for him, going to the temple, going to the places of pilgrimage like Jagannath Puri, Mayapur, Vrindavan, that's all under Padasevanam. Taking a bath in the Ganges or Yamuna, that's also Padasevanam.
Okay.
Performing Abhisheka?
Performing Abhishek would be coming under Archana. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Prabhuji, can I ask a question?
You can?
So, Prabhuji, if somebody in meditation worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna, so is that remembrance or?
Padasevanam.
Yes. So it's called Manasi Puja.
Yeah.
But having said that, all the definitions are the same. So, so massaging his lotus feet in the mind is still Padasevanam.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so
It's
much.
just at the mental level as opposed to physical level.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Prabhuji, I have a question. What about hello? Is it audible?
I can hear you. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Oh, yeah. What about surrendering to the feet of the Guru?
Yeah, so hold off for a second. I'll come to that. Okay. Next one is Archanam, right?
Yeah.
What is Archanam?
भगवान जी के वगैरह पूजा करनी, वर्शिप करनी, वर्शिप
Archvigraha.
Okay. Worshipping is the literal translation and is correct. What else?
Changing the dresses, garlanding the deities.
Okay.
Bathing the deities.
Okay. Yeah.
Making arati.
Yes, absolutely right. So all those are correct answers. But it's more than that. So for example, observing festivals like Janmashtami, Ram Navami, Gaur Purnima, Nrsimha Chaturdashi, all those, they're under Archanam.
Okay.
And there's two other comments I want to make. As a householder, devotees must perform deity worship at home. That's one point. And second point is at the temple, if you cannot do the arti, which obviously not everybody can, you can watch it. And watching the arti being performed attentively is the same as doing the arti. So if somebody thinks that, oh, that Pujari is so lucky, he's doing the arti, well, yes, he's lucky, no question about it. But we are all lucky observing that as long as we're doing this attentively. Okay? So that's one point. The second point, which is the scary side of this, is that there are 64 offenses against deity worship. Some are serious, some are so-so. And so I'll give you some examples that are kind of obvious. So you can't go to a funeral home and then walk straight to the temple. You can't go to a hospital and walk straight to the temple. You must take shower. You should not enter a temple room when it's dark. Turn the light on. Similarly, you must knock on the door to get their attention before you enter. Some of the other ones are you can't sit in front of the deities with your feet facing the deities. Yeah, so you can't. You have to have clean clothes if you're going to altar to enter the altar room. Okay, so like that, there's 64 different offenses. If you're interested, you can read that. It's in the 7th canto. It's talking about the 9 processes. I think 6th chapter, and a lot of details are given. All the 64 are listed. So if you're interested, you should read that section. That's a very important and very good section. Okay, next. What's the next one?
Prabhu, can I clarify something?
Yes, of course, Brother Prabhu, go ahead.
Like in the early days, like I was told, I try to follow this, but like when I'm trying to,
You mean your early days?
Yeah. So I was told that when I enter the temple hall, I knock on the door if there is no bell, and then I first offer my obeisances at the door to all the devotees before I actually go to near the altar, like bow down at the temple door, like the temple hall. Is that like first read that Vancha Kalpataru and then enter inside?
Okay, so I was talking about the altar room where the deities are. But your question is very valid, and I'm going to answer that. I just want to make sure the distinction was clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you do enter the temple room, as opposed to the altar room, what you described is correct in that you should knock on the door or the wall or a frame of the door, whatever that is, or the bell before you enter. And you should actually put your right foot in first and offer obeisances to the Srila Prabhupada and all the deities from that spot. And then you go to Srila Prabhupada, offer your obeisances and the Pranami mantra, and then you go to the altar side and offer your obeisances to the deities in the order they're there. Okay? So did I answer your question or no?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
So at the temple room door, am I offering obeisances to Prabhupada and the deities first, or the devotees in the temple room?
So it's Prabhupada and the deities. I don't particularly, actually I don't remember having read that you should offer it to all the devotees, because there could be 500 people there.
No. Just offering that Vancha Kalpataru, that's all.
Oh, I see. Okay, I have not ever done that, and maybe that's my problem. But it's typically it's Srila Prabhupada and the deities.
Okay.
And then later on, if you meet people and you want to do that, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
But not in front of the deity doors if the deity doors are open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only person you offer obeisances to when the deity doors are open is your guru or Srila Prabhupada or Parampara, but nobody else. Even if it's a sannyasi, if the deity doors are open, you don't offer. You just go like that, pranam.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the next one is Vandanam. What is Vandanam?
Paying obeisances.
Okay, yes. Yes.
Offering prayers.
And yes, so offering obeisances and offering prayers. Okay. All right. So let's see who knows the next one. What's the next one? Dasyam.
Dasyam Sakyam.
Okay, so let's go one at a time, please. So what's Dasyam?
Serving God.
Yes. So serving, obviously, but in Dasyam it basically says serve in the mood that you are the eternal servant of Krishna.
Accepting the servitor.
I'm sorry, Sonu?
I'm sorry, I was late to unmute. I think you already answered, Prabhuji. I was saying accepting the servitor.
Oh yes, you are the servitor. Oh, I'm sorry, you're the servant. Well, maybe you're the servitor, but I'm the servant. Okay, all right. What's next? Sakhyam, somebody said? What's Sakhyam? It's a very interesting one.
Sakha.
Consider him as your friend.
I don't need the translation, I need the definition.
Sakha then.
Becoming the Lord's friend.
I'm sorry?
Serving the Lord as his friend, in the mood of he is my friend.
But what does that mean?
It's a hard one.
What does that mean? Tell me in practical terms. I don't need a word. I need practical definition. What do you do?
We can talk to Krishna.
You can. I can't.
No, in the sense, whatever you have, how we sit in front of a friend and we disclose our things. We can even talk. I do sit down, I have no one.
Yeah, but that's not Sakya Mataji, sorry.
Okay.
Sakha's example is Sudhamaji.
Again, tell me what is it that you do or you can do that would come under the category of Sakyam?
Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Now, what I think myself, Krishna is the most close and near friend to me, because all the time he is sitting.
But what is it that you do for him that will make you a Sakha?
Prabhuji, can I try?
sometimes I share my dialogues with him while Krishna, let's go today for walk. Krishna, please eat quickly because today I am going somewhere. It's like,
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah,
it's like that.
okay,
My,
sure. Okay, thank you. Sonam?
But I'm just trying, Prabhuji, because I recently have heard this from a senior Vaishnava that in the initial stages, as Srila Prabhupada has also mentioned everywhere in his books, that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So after I mean, I am nowhere, but people who've achieved something, after that, they try and forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they develop a particular rasa, like the Sakhyam. So becoming a friend more than a Supreme Personality of Godhead relationship is Sakhyam.
Okay, so you're defining pure Sakhyam. I'm defining our level Sakhyam. At our level,
Playing with Krishna.
we're not, we
I
can't
lost
climb up.
you.
So one second. We cannot climb up Krishna's shoulders. We cannot kick Krishna. We cannot abuse him. We cannot tease him. We're not there yet. So at our level, what is Sakhyam? So Dikuj Madhvi Mata, you trying to say something?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, to have desire to stay in his company is, I think, and enjoy to have conversation with him.
Okay, all right.
No?
Okay.
To share your secrets.
I'm sorry?
Prabhu, Prabhu, to trust Prabhu, trustworthiness.
Okay, but what does that mean?
Can I say something, Prabhuji?
One
You
second.
depend on him, you rely on him for everything. You know that he's going to guide you in the right way. Like
Okay, but
you don't have an individual decision. Like you depend so much on him.
Okay, all right.
Can I say something, Prabhuji?
Yes, go ahead.
Feeling like he's always with me wherever we go, wherever I go, he's always with me.
Okay, all right. So let me try that. In your everyday life, what is a friend? I'm not about Krishna now. Everyday life, what's a friend? A friend is someone who has your back and whose back you have.
Yes, well-wisher, yeah.
Well-wisher, exactly. So how can we be the well-wisher of Krishna? We can be a well-wisher of Krishna by doing what he wants us to do and by doing something that would make him happy. The thing that makes Krishna most happy is when a lost child comes back to him. Therefore, if we help a lost child go back to Krishna, that'll make Krishna very happy, and that makes us a real good friend of Krishna. So when we preach to the outsiders, when we distribute books, when we encourage people to chant Hare Krishna, when we encourage people to come to the temple, when in the temple we encourage people to do more and more service and chanting, etc., we are being a friend of Krishna. But that's a well-wisher of Krishna, doing what he wants us to do, doing what he really wants to happen. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. What's the next one?
Atmanivedanam.
What is Atmanivedanam? To surrender completely, my wife says. What else?
Offering oneself wholly, including the material possessions, and also that is known as Atmanivedana. I don't know.
Yes, so you're right. So you offer, as my wife was saying, your body, mind, intelligence, and whatever we possess.
Everything.
Manas de gehe je kichu mora, sab kuch arpilnu tuya nand kishora. You know, Thakur is saying, everything, my house, my family, my mind, my body, my intelligence, everything is offered to you. Whatever I have is yours. But it goes even beyond that. And that is saying, Krishna, I have no desire other than what you desire for me to do. That's it. That's it. I have no other desire than to please you or to do anything that you want me to do, you desire me to do. That's it. That's Atmanivedana. So those are the 9 processes of devotional service. Now, you have to do all of them, or can you do just one of them?
Of them.
All of them.
All of them?
Well, so there are people, I will talk about the examples, who achieved perfection from just doing one of them. So let's go back. Shravanam. Who achieved perfection from simply Shravanam?
Parikshit Maharaj.
Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah.
Prahlad.
You got, no, Parikshit Maharaj.
Parikshit Maharaj.
And, okay, to some degree, Prahlad also, I agree. Although his comes later. Who got perfection from chanting, just chanting?
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni.
Lord Narad Muni.
Haridas Thakur.
Haridas Thakur.
Haridas Thakur in Chaitanya Leela.
You're missing the most obvious one. We just said Parikshit Maharaj. What's the other side of Parikshit Maharaj?
Sukhdev Goswami.
Sukadev Goswami, exactly.
Sukhdev Goswami.
Sukadev Goswami from chanting. Because reading or telling people Bhagavatam is chanting also. So Sukadev Goswami. Remembering, who achieved perfection just from remembering the Lord?
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Exactly. Okay, then Padasevanam. Who achieved perfection from just only
Lakshmi ji.
Lakshmi. Very good.
Lakshmi.
Okay, Archanam. Who achieved perfection just from Archanam?
Amrish Maharaj.
Ambarish Maharaj. Very good. Vandanam.
Mirabai.
Huh?
Mirabai.
She did more than just Akrura.
Akrura, he offered prayers.
Yes, Akrura.
Okay, Dasyam. Who's famous for Dasyam?
Hanumanji.
Hanumanji. Who's Sakyam?
Arjuna.
Yes, very good. And Atmanivedanam.
Bali
Very
Maharaj.
good. Bali Maharaj. Yes, Bali Maharaj. So those are the people who achieve perfection just from one activity.
Yes.
So yes, you do not have to do all 9. You can stick with just one.
Maharaj.
I'm sorry?
Amrish Maharaj.
That was Archanam. And so they achieved perfection just from one of these 9 processes. So you don't have to do them all. Now it's just that because we don't have perfection, we try to do all of them, cover all the bases, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the point being made in Srimad Bhagavatam is that you don't have to. You can achieve perfection just from, excuse me, from one activity. Okay, so having said that, now we go back to the story. When Hiranyakashipu heard this answer from Prahlad Maharaj, he got so upset with the teachers. Anybody remembers the names of the 2 teachers? Shand and Amarka. And he said, you have trained my son Prahlad wrongly. You have trained them in devotional service. And these guys, the 2 guys, were just, I don't even know what the word is. Like, they were upset, they were scared, and they were really, really disturbed. And they said, no, your son is automatically devotee. He does not listen to our instructions. And they basically convinced Hiranyakashipu that in this case they are innocent. So Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, where did you learn this Vishnu Bhakti? And Prahlad Maharaj said something very interesting. And let me see if I have it on the shared page. Just give me 1 second. Hold on. Pranami mantra. Here. And there you go. So this is 7.5.30. Somebody would like to read that?
I can try.
Please do.
Shri Prahlad Uvach. No, Shri.
Yeah, Prahlad is fine. Prahlad is fine.
Is it Prahlad only? Yeah.
Prahlad,
Shri
yes.
Prahlad Uvacha. Matirna Krishne Prata Swatova Mitho Abhi Padhayata Graha Vratanam Adhanta Gobhe Vishatam Tamishram Puna Punaschar Vitcharparanam.
By the way, that's one of my absolute favorite verses, and I'll tell you why in a second. So Prahlad Maharaj is answering the question. to Hiranyakashipu. He said, "My dear father, those people who are, can you see my cursor? Grihavatanam, who are too attached to their family, materialistic family life. They cannot see beyond the materialistic things. They are so busy enjoying Adanta Gobhir, their sense of Goi senses, Gobhir, the senses, to unlimited. Adanta means there's no end to their desire to satisfy the senses. So those people, they do not develop Krishna consciousness, Matilna Krishna, by swato, by themselves, by the instruction of other people, or Abhipadyet means by in the assembly of other people. So whether you go talk to them, or they try to think themselves, or they hear classes, lectures, etc., nothing goes in. They want to have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness because they're so busy trying to enjoy their senses. But here is the problem, he says. Puna punas charvit charvanana. If you take the example of sugar cane, has anybody had raw sugar cane? A big danda and you break it with the teeth.
Yes,
Yes.
Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Yes,
So
Prabhuji.
then you'll relate with this. First time you chew on this, it's nice juice comes out. As you keep chewing, second time, third time, fourth time, the amount of juice is reduced. Finally,
Yes.
there is no juice left. No juice left. But if you keep chewing on it, what happens?
Blood.
There's absolutely nothing coming out.
Yeah.
The Prahlad Maharaj is saying it's just like that. Life after life after life. These kind of materialistic people, they try to enjoy their life. But it's the same thing all over again. Is eating, mating, defending and sleeping. That's all there is. They keep doing that, but there is no additional juice coming out. So their attempts to enjoy life is like chewing that sugar cane that has been chewed many, many times. There is no pleasure anymore. And then I wrote a note to me because I wanted to not forget this example. This is a real example. In the desert, you have camels. And sometimes when they get hungry, they look for a tree to eat the leaves off. But a lot of places in the desert, there's only one tree. That's cactus tree. Has anyone seen a cactus tree? Lots of thorns, right? Lots
Thorns on it.
So the camel bites one piece of it and starts to chew on it. Now, it's totally dry. There's no juice in it. But he keeps on chewing on it. So what happens? The thorns that he's got in his mouth, they start to cut his tongue and his mouth. So very soon, after chewing for maybe a minute or two, his tongue and his mouth starts to bleed. Gets mixed up with the cactus. And then he swallows his own blood. And he thinks that that's the taste of the cactus. He says, yummy, this is really good. And he's saying, Prahlad was saying, that's the situation with these people. They simply don't understand. And then he added the next one. So would somebody like to read 7.5.31? No brave souls?
Yes.
I can try.
I'm sorry?
I can try, Prabhuji.
Okay, please go ahead.
Nate viduhu svardha gatini gatim hi vishnum durashaya ye bahir artham maninaha andha yathana dhar upani yamana manasya te pisha tantriam uru damini badaha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. So here Prahlad Maharaj is saying, those people who are Bahir Arthmanina, who are basically interested in external things like Maya, they are looking for their whatever that is ultimate destination. So they find a guru. But that guru is not transcendentalist either, not in parampara. He is no understanding of philosophy. So he's like a blind man. So he's saying, Andha jatha andhaya rupini mana. He's saying, just like a blind man starts to lead other blind men, then what happens? They all end up where? In a ditch. Which means the bhavkup, the well of the material world. And what happens in the material world? Urdamni baddha. They get tied by around their belly by the ropes of the 3 ropes of the gunas.
Okay.
3 ropes of material nature. So those people who are looking for external pleasures, they find a guru who doesn't know anything about philosophy. It's like a blind man leading the blind, therefore they end up in the ditch where they're bound by the 3 ropes of material nature, and therefore they can never get out. And these people don't understand that they're swarth. Who knows the meaning of the word swarth?
Selfishness.
Independent, Prabhu.
Priya.
Not selfishness, no. That's
No.
what is swarth?
Shreya, long run. What is the good for us,
What is
Shreya?
better to self? Yeah.
That's right. What is good for me? What is good for me? They don't understand what's good for them, and that they just don't know that what's good for them is Gatim hi Vishnu, taking shelter of Lord Vishnu. So he's saying that those people who are so much into their sense enjoyment, they end up being led or cheated by another person who also does not have any understanding of philosophy. And they get tied with the ropes of material nature and therefore continue eternally their cycle of repeated birth and death. And they never get the point that their real interest lies in the shelter of Lord Vishnu. Clear? Okay. And oh, by the way, the reason I keep putting these on the screen is that I'm hoping that you'll become interested enough to go home. Well, you're already home. After the class, over the next couple of days, we'll read in Srimad Bhagavatam these verses and the purports, because they're very, very important, very meaningful, and they're very helpful in making us progress on the path of devotional service. So that's the reason. Otherwise, I could just chant it myself and continue to move. Okay? I hope that's making sense. All right. So, excuse me. Sorry, any questions before I move on? Okay, all right. So then Prahlad Maharaj said, it's the duty of every man to take shelter of a pure devotee and take the dust of his lotus feet so that he becomes eligible to understand Krishna consciousness and take shelter of the Lord. So what he's saying is that unless you get the mercy of a devotee, it's very difficult to get the mercy of the Lord, without which it's very difficult or impossible to progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. Is that clear, or are there any questions? Okay, looks like it's clear. Okay, all right. So you can just imagine Hiranyakashipu, demon like Hiranyakashipu, hearing an answer like that from his own son. It was too much for him. So he literally threw Prahlad Maharaj off his lap and ordered his soldiers to kill him, kill my son. Well, the demons like doing that. The demon soldiers, they rushed with their sharp weapons, tridents and all that, and they started piercing Prahlad Maharaj's body with those sharp weapons. But amazingly, there was no effect upon Prahlad Maharaj. He just sat peacefully, eyes closed, in lotus position, and remembering Krishna. And he kept saying, "My dear Lord Krishna, I am yours. I know that not a blade of grass can move without your sanction. The person you protect cannot be killed by anybody. And the person you want to kill cannot be protected by anybody. So I'm your servant. Do as you like with me. But all I ask you," and this is as the soldiers are piercing his body with these sharp weapons. He's saying, my dear Lord, all I ask is in life or death, let me be always fixed in loving thoughts of your lotus feet. Can you imagine? Can you imagine somebody being tortured like that and saying, my dear Lord, please don't let me forget you?
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
This is so unrelatable because I can't imagine because I mean we go through so many things in our lifetime, and I mean for me personally, like, you know, I'll take time to be mad at Krishna. Like Prahlad Maharaj is so unrelatable. So what, for those who cannot relate, what do we do?
Yes. So actually, excellent question. There are a lot of stories, if not all the stories in Srimad Bhagavatam and the scriptures, which are hard to relate to if you start thinking in terms of practicality, where we are and where they are. But the whole purpose of all the stories in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures is to tell us what's the highest. And you aim at the highest and you might get a little bit less than the highest. It's like I remember as a student, I used to hear a lot, if you aim to get 50% in exam, you might end up getting 40%. But if you aim to get 100%, you might get 90%. And that's the whole idea. The scriptures are telling us where to aim. And then they're giving us the path, how to get there. They're not saying that you are there. So what you want to relate to is that one day, one lifetime, I need to be there. Not I have to be there. I need to be there. Why? Because from your everyday practical experience today, you know that I will be in trouble of one kind or the other. I may not have people, hitting with their tridents and the swords and everything else, but I've got equivalent of that coming from my boss, coming from my neighbors, and coming from my other so-called enemies or even friends sometimes. So I'm dealing with these problems to different degree, different nature, but I am dealing with problems. How do I deal with those problems as I'm facing them? Then the principle is the same. If we say to Krishna, whatever is happening by your sanction, by your plan, I accept that, nothing moves without sanction, so there must be a reason why you're doing that. And my dear Lord Krishna, all I ask is, don't let me forget you. And try that. That's not unrelatable. Try that and you'll find the problem may not go away, but it's so much easier to address it, to tolerate it, to solve it, and come out of it with a big smile on your face. I did it. That's the whole point. Can you relate to that, Radhika?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I don't say yes if you're just being polite. I don't mind a discussion.
No, I would tell you. We've known each other long enough that I would tell you.
Okay, so that's the whole point.
Prabhuji, I have a question on similar lines.
Okay, Rajan.
As Mataji told that it's not relatable and I find myself in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm trying to understand is there a background, is there backstory to this? Some similar to what Vritrasur. So who was Prahlad in his previous lifetime? Because it's difficult for me to digest that in 4 years one can achieve such greatness if there's no background to it.
Yes, so good question. We were going to address that later on, but I'll answer your question very short. He had a spiritual master by the name of Narad Muni. That's where his perfection came from. Okay, so we'll get into that story later on, but it's not his previous life. It's this life, but the 100 celestial years in the womb, hearing from Narad Muni, anybody can become pure devotee by that. Even a moment's association with Narad Muni will do that, but imagine 100 celestial years association with Narad Muni. So this is not surprising at all. Okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
I hope you're satisfied.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right. So, as I was saying, Prahlad was being hit by these sharp weapons. But he had his eyes closed. He was simply saying to Krishna, please keep my focus on your lotus feet. So it was this faith and this degree of devotion that all these powerful demon soldiers could not penetrate his flesh with their weapons. So having become frustrated, they took him to a high mountain and threw him down. Nothing happened. Then they put him on the ground and they dropped massive rocks like mountains from the top of a mountain. Nothing happened. His aunt Holika came and said, I have a benediction that the fire will not burn me, so let me take him to the fire. They did that. Holika got burnt. Prahlad was safe. They threw him under the feet of stampeding elephants. Nothing happened. They gave him poison. He simply offered it to Krishna, turned it into nectar, drank it. Nothing happened. They threw him in a pit of deadly snakes and scorpions. Nothing happened. They threw him in boiling oil pot. Nothing happened. Not a slightest bit of effect. And Hiranyakashipu was going crazy. He was at his wit's end. He didn't know what to do. What do I do next? And so instead of Prahlad being in fear, now Hiranyakashipu was in fear. So the two teachers, Shan and Amarka, they noticed this. So they went to Hiranyakashipu with their hands folded and said, my dear king, please do not be upset. I mean, after all, this is only a 5-year-old kid. Give us one more chance. Let us take him back to this school. And we'll make him a good demon just like you want. And we'll teach him all about dharma, artha, kama and moksha. The religiosity, the economic development, material desire satisfaction and the liberation. We'll teach him all about that. We'll teach him about differentiating between enemies and friends and all those kind of things. Don't worry, we'll do a good job this time. And they took him to school. Well, Prahlad Maharaj didn't want to have anything to do with them. So he just sat quietly in the class, totally ignoring the instructions. But now, every time these teachers were absent from the school, Prahlad Maharaj would gather all his friends, sit down with them. The friends will drop all the games they were playing, all the other stories they were hearing. They sit there and with rapt attention, they will hear what Prahlad Maharaj had to say. And very quickly, all these sons of demons became pure devotees. So I'm going to again put share the screen and put a couple more verses. Okay, so let me go. Who would like to read 7.6.1? This is Prahlad Maharaj speaking, by the way.
I can try, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, please.
Kaumaracharet pragyo dharmam bhagvatani iha durlabham manusham janma tadapya adruvam arthadam.
Very good. Thank you, Prabhu. So, let me explain the word Kaumar. The Kaumar is a age range, I should say, that is 5 to 10. So Bal Avastha, the childhood, is 1 to 5, and then Kaumar is 5 to 10. So he's saying as soon as you turn 5 years old, Kaumar, your actual activities, you should be like you are performing devotional service. And he says, why from the age of 5? He said, because first of all, you don't know how long you will live. But the second thing is, this human body, this human birth, Durlabham, is very difficult, it's very rare. Manushya Janam, the human birth, it's very rare. And let me give an example of how rare that is. How many species are there?
84 lakhs.
8.4 million, my wife says. So she must be right. 8.4 million. Some species last few seconds, some last 100,000 years. So if you take the average to be 1 year per species, and after this human life, we get into the cycle where we have to go through every one of those species before we come back as human being. And in every species, we are there for 1 year. That means 8.4 million years before we come back as human being after this time. Did everybody follow my logic?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
So that is how it is possible that for 8.4 million years in the past, we were not a human. And now we got it. It may not be for another 8.4 million years before you get human body again. That is how rare it is, Prahlad Maharaj is telling them. So make good use of it. He says, Tadapi adhruvam arthadam. He said, yes, I know adhruvam means it's temporary. Maximum in the age of Kali, 100 years. You get 100, you make the news. And you get a letter from Prime Minister. Congratulations. It is so rare. So he said, yes, it is temporary. But arthadam is meaningful. It's meaningful only if you engage this body in the service of Krishna. That's what he's saying. And he says, you must start right at your current age, which is 5 years age. Okay, any questions on that verse before I move to the next one?
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the again, okay, after death, again birth, it depends on the state of the mind, right? So is it always like 8.4 after taking the birth of 8.4 and then taking the human birth? Is it always, or that depends?
Yeah, it depends, Prabhu. I was saying that if you got into that loop, then it could be 8.4 million years. I mean, if you're chanting, you're guaranteed human birth in the next life. So that equation doesn't apply in all situations. I was just saying, if you get into that loop, then it could be 8.4 million years before you come back.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions? Okay, then who would like to read the 7.6.3?
I can do, Prabhu.
Or please do, yes, Mataji.
Sukam aindriyakam daitya dehayogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivat yata dukkam ayatnatah.
Thank you, Mother. Very nice. So what he's telling his friends is that everybody in the world is trying very hard to get material happiness. But what they don't understand is that according to our karmas, the demigods will give us whatever, I'm sorry, I didn't mean demigods. By God's arrangement, they will get whatever material happiness is in their quota. Just like the miseries in our life come without asking for them. So, do you know anybody who leaves home one day says, today I'm going to have an accident and I'm going to hurt real bad? He leaves home thinking like that. Do you know anybody like that? But do the accidents happen? Yes. Does anybody wake up in the morning and say, today I'm going to stab my toe against the wall and really damage it? But it happens. Who invests in a stock saying, this is a definite loser, guaranteed, Prabhu? Who invests in a stock like that? But we lose money in stock market. So Prahlad is making the point, we don't try at all to receive miseries in life, but they come automatically without being asked. So why do we think that the happiness will not come without asking? If it is in our quota, it will come. So he's saying, my dear friends, my dear demon friends, don't over endeavor to earn money, to get material happiness and all those kind of things. They'll come if they're in your quota. Therefore, don't waste your time working 18 hours a day, trying to make so much money that you can't even enjoy because you're working so hard, and waste your valuable lifetime. Engage in devotional service. That's the message. Is that clear, or is there any question?
It's clear, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll keep moving. So then he said, what happens to your average person? He says, suppose for a second, an average person lives for 100 years. So he's just give an example. And he says, this person spends half his life sleeping. So 50 years gone. After the remaining 50 years, for the first 10 years of life is basically being bewildered, don't know what's going on, just smiling, laughing, playing, nothing. And the next 10 years after that, you're a boy or a girl, and you spend those playing, just having a good time in life. And then the last 20 years, from 80s to 100, you're so old, you're almost an invalid, unable to perform even the material activities that you plan to do. So how many gone? 50 plus 20 plus 20. Basically,
90.
is gone.
90.
Right. So in between, one has family, and he just works for the money. You know, he says for materialistic people, money is like honey. It is so sweet for them that they would do anything. And if that means cheating people, robbing people, stealing from people, killing people for money, or working day and night to get the money, they do that because they think it will give them happiness. But money never brings happiness. And in doing that, they have no time for devotional service. I had a friend who told me, this is when he had just been newly married. He said, my wife and I meet at the airport only. I'm coming home, she's leaving home for some trip. And when she's coming home, I'm leaving for a trip. So we only meet at the airport. They were making very good money. But my question was, what's the use of that money that we cannot spend any time with each other? Another friend of mine told me, for the first 10 years of the life of his son, he only saw him sleeping. He left home for work when the child was still sleeping. By the time he got back, the child was asleep again. So what's the use of working so hard? Even the material pleasure is not there. Forget about the devotional pleasure. And Prahlad Maharaj compared these kind of materially attached people with a silkworm, which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned and just cannot get out. So all these materially afflicted or attached people, they're weaving a cocoon around their life. So they come, they're born, they work very hard, they watch a few movies or whatever. Maybe they accumulate a lot of money, but then they die. Prabhupada is saying, what's the use of that? Simply for the satisfaction of two senses, the genitals and the tongue. One gets bound by the material conditions and just cannot escape like that cocoon. And that way, moment after moment, he or she wastes their entire life. So he's saying, now is the time at the age of 5 to take to the devotional service. Now is the time to make devotional service the foremost thing in your life. Then you'll be able to continue. And he went on. He said, look, it's very easy to please the Supreme Lord. All we have to do is just worship Him with faith and chant His name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then he added something very nice. He said, nothing is unobtainable for devotees who satisfy the Lord. He said, therefore, there's no need to learn about dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. They're all material in nature. You stick with devotional service. And then he answered the question that Rajan Prabhu was asking earlier. He said, this knowledge that I've just given you is called Bhagavat Dharma. And I received that from a great devotee by the name of Narad Muni, who's always engaged in devotional service. The children were very surprised. They said, wait a minute, we're not sure we want to believe what you're saying. Because you are always confined to your palace with all the security guards and soldiers and your parents and everybody. How is it possible that Narad Muni came and told you about all this? So please explain that. So Prahlad said, yes, you're right. It's not when I've been in the palace. He said that when my father, Hiranyakashipu, had gone to the mountain, Mandarachal, to perform those severe austerities that we talked about last week, then all the demons had gone here and there. My mother, Kayadhu, was pregnant at that time. So the demigods said, hey, this is their opportunity. They thought that the son of a demon would be a demon. So they thought I was the demon in the womb of my mother. So they arrested her. And their plan was that as soon as I'm born, they would kill me. That was their plan. So while they were taking Kayadhu to their heavenly planets, Narad Muni showed up, who always does. He has the most perfect sense of timing. So he showed up. Like whether it's Dhruva Maharaj or somebody else, Narad Maharaj knows when to show up. Or Kansa, for example, he knows when to show up. So he showed up. And he said, hey guys, what's up? So they told him what they were doing. And he said, no, don't do that. The personality in the womb of this woman is going to become a wonderful, pure devotee. You have nothing to fear from him. So leave her alone, and took her to his own ashram, where he took care of her. And Kayadhu was, of course, praying for the protection of her baby. And Narada said, don't worry, I'm here, I'll take care of you. Nobody's going to bother you or your child. And for all the time that she was pregnant, the 100 celestial years, he gave her instructions on spiritual knowledge, which Prahlad Maharaj heard while still in the womb. And because there's nothing else to do, because there are no other distractions or experiences that you can remember, he paid full attention and therefore got full benefit of Shravanam. Remember last week I was saying, unless you do Shravanam and Kirtanam, you cannot do Smaranam. And that was the example of Prahlad Maharaj. So who else we know from the Bhagavatam who listened to instructions when in the womb of his mother? Anybody remember? Huh?
Abhimanyu.
Abhimanyu, that's right. Okay, so what did Narad Muni instruct? So again, there's a whole chapter on that, but I'm going to give you a gist of it. So very first thing was very basic. Narad Muni said, we are not this body, we are spirit soul. I said, anyone who understands that can perform pure devotional service. Everybody else performs mixed devotional service. And he said that any person engaged in the service of the Lord through the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master is immediately freed from the clutches of Maya, is relieved of all ignorance and material desires, which is the same thing, being freed from the clutches of the Maya, and then liberated. Therefore, it's the duty of everyone to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and get rid of all the material desires. There's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vasudeve Bhagavate Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janiyati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. First canto. Sutta Goswami is saying, if we become attached to Krishna, we automatically become renounced from material things. And that's what Narad Muni was telling Kayadhu and indirectly to Prahlad Maharaj. And he said, regardless of the material condition in which you are in, you can achieve this perfection. Because, why? Because devotional service is not dependent on any kind of material activities, any austerity, any penance, any mystic yoga or piety. It's totally independent. And those of you who were in the Gita class, looked at the yoga ladder, know that very well. And he said, one can achieve devotional service simply through the mercy of a pure devotee. So I'm going to pause for a second, see if there are any questions before I move on. No? Okay.
It's not a question, Prabhu, but a doubt always comes in my mind. When we keep continuously doing something, at one point we get bored of it, right? So how can you explain that we will not get bored of the devotional service when we started from the childhood? It's not like I'm questioning, but it's something clicking in my mind.
That's a very, very good question. Very excellent question, actually. And let me see if I can give you a satisfactory answer.
Okay.
And sorry, I was just reading the chat comment. Okay. So we get bored of material things.
Okay.
So, for example, if you chant one song, right? Nagri Nagri Dware Dware Dhunu Mein Samariya. And we keep singing that. After about maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days of singing that, you say, okay, next one, enough. Because they don't have the bliss that your soul desires. It becomes punas chadi charvananam, that verse that we're talking about, chewing the chewed. After a while, there's no juice left. That goes for any material activity. But the devotional activities are different because they're full of nectar. However, what is our problem? Our problem is we have the jaundice of ignorance. So, does anybody know how sugar candy tastes to a person who has jaundice? Bitter. So because we have so much ignorance, we read it that we are a spirit soul, but we don't really apply it. We read Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead, but we act like we are the one. We read Krishna as the Supreme Controller, but we act like we are the one. We read Krishna as the only enjoyer, but we act like we are the one. That confusion puts us on the material platform, which puts us in the disease of jaundice and stops us from enjoying the nectar that's in the devotional service. So therefore, yes, there's danger of getting bored, but there's still enough nectar that if you stay in the association of devotees and you insist with patience on chanting, you will not get bored enough to leave it. It's when you give up the devotee association, then all the bad things start to happen.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. It's been like months in this question in my mind. Thank you so much.
I'm glad. Thank you. Okay, all right. So let's move on.
And Prabhuji, also, I mean, what Mataji mentioned, you also had told us once, we get bored if we are doing it mechanically, like every day we are doing Om Jai Jagadish Hare, and we don't know the meaning and we don't connect with it. But here the devotional service, the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us, it's we gradually improve. I mean, we develop a relationship, and then that's how we don't get bored, isn't it?
Yeah, that's also true. I think the implication was that when we remain on the material platform, that's when we start doing it mechanically. And therefore, whatever pleasure could come doesn't come our way. So yes, you're right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, following the instructions of Prahlad Maharaj, all the demon children became devotees. They all became attached to Lord Vishnu. And their teachers noticed that. And that these kids have become very quiet and very well behaved, and they're chanting. They got scared that, my God, what happened? They have become devotees instead of demons. So they went to Hiranyakashipu. And they said, we are going to expel your son from our school because he's bad association for other children. He's turning them into devotees instead of demons. And anybody who comes in contact with Prahlad, he starts to chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. They said, we cannot tolerate that. Therefore, we are expelling him from our school. Well, you can imagine, when Hiranyakashipu heard that, he got so angry. His lips were trembling, his body was trembling, his eyes were red with rage. And he starts saying, I'm the greatest personality in the world. Who's Vishnu in front of me? Why is this boy doing that? And he called Prahlad Maharaj. Why are you doing this? When you know I'm the greatest, why aren't you glorifying me? And Prahlad Maharaj said, I'm sorry, you're not God. And then he started to glorify Lord again. And said, everything is under the control of the Lord. No one is equal to or greater than the God. Natasamo abhirati prashadishyate, as Shutashtara of the Upanishad says. There's nobody equal to or greater than God. Therefore, how can you be? And I said, my dear father, you know what? You should take shelter of the Lord. I think it's about time you did that. Hiranyakashipu couldn't believe his ears. My son is talking to me like that. He said, I don't get this. I've conquered the entire universe. Even Indra, the king of the demigods, trembles in fear of me. Why is it that you don't fear me? I don't get this. How is it that I've conquered everything and everyone, but I cannot kill you? I cannot even disturb you. You close your eyes and you start mumbling something, don't know what, and you're not disturbed. Tell me, where do you get this power from? That you dare challenge me, Hiranyakashipu? Maharaj, with great humility, hands folded, but great conviction. He replied, my dear father, I get my powers from the same place where you do, and everyone else does. It is from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller. And the more Prahlad Maharaj glorified the Lord, the more agitated and angry Hiranyakashipu got. And finally, he couldn't take this anymore. He drew his sword, stood up from his throne, started walking towards Prahlad. Said, you fool, you impudent child, I'm going to cut your head off. You always talk about Vishnu. You always chant his name. You say he's everywhere. Well, and he was just passing by a pillar. He says, is he in this pillar? And Prahlad said, oh, gee, Dad, I don't know. Let me think. I'm not sure. Let me see. Let me send a WhatsApp text to my Guru Maharaj, Narad Muni. Let me see what he has to say about this. What do you think? Is that what happened? Yes, no? Maybe I said it too seriously. No. No, it didn't happen. I'm just kidding. Oh my God. I was just kidding. Maharaj said, yes, Father.
Do it.
Everywhere. Even in this pillar. There's no hesitation in his voice. Absolutely zero hesitation in his voice because he was totally convinced. He was totally convinced and he had full faith that the Lord is there because he is everywhere. Well, Hiranyakashipu had enough of this. And he shouted, if he is in this pillar, let him come out and save you because I'm about to kill you. Let me see him save you. And he forcefully stuck the pillar with his fist. Well, when he stuck the pillar, there was this tremendous, tumultuous, thundering sound. And at first, Hiranyakashipu couldn't see anything but the pillar. But then, Bhagavatam says, just to substantiate his devotee's statement that the Lord is everywhere, even in this pillar, the Lord came out of the pillar. Wonderful incarnation as Nrsimha, half lion and half man. Lord Nrsimha Deva ki jai. Well, he had the head of a lion and the body of a man. And he began to roar as soon as he appeared. The sound of his roar was so deafening that it literally instilled unlimited fear in the hearts of all living beings. Even Hiranyakashipu felt something, kuch hua usko bhi. His eyes were red with anger. Totally red with anger. He just couldn't believe what's happening. So I'm sorry. I'm talking about, when I say, I'm talking about Lord Nrsimhadev. He had nails which were lighting up the entire planet. Bhagavatam says the suns and the moon lost their effulgence compared to the effulgence of his nails. But his chest and shoulders were very broad and a very thin waist, just like the body of a lion. And Hiranyakashipu could immediately understand that the extraordinary, wonderful form of the Lord is meant for his death. He prepared to fight for his life with this form of half lion, half man. And he leapt at Lord Nrsimhadev, killed him with his club. But Lord Nrsimhadev was so gigantic. It's explained in Bhagavatam that his hair was touching the clouds. So gigantic that Hiranyakashipu literally disappeared in the body of the Lord. And there Hiranyakashipu was smashing the body of the Lord with his club, and Lord Nrsimhadev was just laughing. And then he grabbed him. He grabbed Hiranyakashipu in his hands, and Hiranyakashipu was literally struggling and squirming to get out. And the Lord let him go. He freed him. When he freed him, Hiranyakashipu ran away, actually flew away. And the demigods saw that. And you know how the demigods are. They're thinking, oh my God, or maybe Hiranyakashipu really is more powerful than the Lord. And Hiranyakashipu also started thinking, if I can free myself from the Lord, from this creature actually, then I can kill him too. So he became even more emboldened. But all that the Lord was doing was playing the game, was what's called cat and mouse. In the Bhagavatam it says, it's like Garuda plays with the snake. He fights with him, grabs him, but before eating lets him go. And the snake thinks, oh, I'm free. But he grabs him again and then eats him. So the Lord was doing the same thing. He'll catch him and let him go. Catch him, let him go. And he was really enjoying this game, cat and mouse game, or snake, or Garuda and snake game. So Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord again. This time, the Lord suddenly remembered what he had done. Oh, excuse me. Looks like, oh, there you go. This time, the Lord remembered what Hiranyakashipu had done to his pure devotee, that child, Prahlad. So now he was angry. The Lord was angry. He didn't want to just kill Hiranyakashipu, but he wanted to actually tear him apart. So he lifted Hiranyakashipu and carried him right to the doorway, which was neither inside nor outside the residence. It was just after sunset, which means it was neither day nor night. He placed him on his lap, which means he was not in the air, the land, or water. And Lord Nrsimhadev was not created by Brahma. Actually, Brahma was created by him. And Lord Nrsimhadev was neither human nor animal, his combination. And he had no intention of using any weapons. He had his nails as the weapons. And with those nails, he ripped Hiranyakashipu into pieces. Literally. And then he ripped out his heart. And he ripped out his intestine. And wore the intestine like a garland around his neck. A garland of victory. His mane, the hair on the face, was red with blood. His whole body was red with the blood of Hiranyakashipu. But he just threw Hiranyakashipu's body on the ground, very contemptuously. And then there were all these thousands of soldiers who said, oh, this guy has killed our king, we'll kill him. Not realizing if we can kill Hiranyakashipu, who are they? So very quickly with his nails, he killed all the soldiers who dared to attack him. When there was no one left to fight, the Lord said, I'm not satisfied. So he was still angry. He was still roaring with anger. And he sat down on the throne. He's still feeling very, very angry. Well, these demigods were still watching the whole thing. So when they saw that the Lord is sitting on the throne, Lord Brahma, accompanied by a lot of demigods like Lord Shiva, etc., they came and offered their prayers to pacify the Lord. But none of them could pacify Lord Nrsimhadev, who is still angry at the treatment that Hiranyakashipu gave to his pure devotee Prahlad. So then Brahma approached Lakshmi Devi. He said, "You're the wife, you go and talk to him." And she said, no bhaiya, no, not this man is not my husband. This is not the man whose lotus feet I massage every day. I don't know this man. I don't know who this is. So I'm not going. So then finally, Lord Brahma approached Prahlad Maharaj and said, "You do it. You offer the prayers." Prahlad is a 5-year-old boy, pure devotee, no fear. So he went straight in front of the Lord, offered his obeisances, prostrated obeisances at the feet of Lord Nrsimhadev. When the Lord saw Prahlad, the little boy, prostrated at his lotus feet, he became so ecstatic with affection for the devotee. And he stood up from his throne and he picked up Prahlad and then placed his lotus hand upon Prahlad's head, which completely purified Prahlad Maharaj of any material attachment which he didn't have, but anyway, whatever was there, or any material desire which he didn't have, but whatever was there. He became pure, totally purified, and therefore completely ecstatic in the love of the Lord. And he started to offer some wonderful prayers, which actually pacified Lord Nrsimhadev. And he was, now calm and quiet. He gave up his anger and he asked Prahlad Maharaj for any benediction that he wanted. But Prahlad Maharaj gave a very interesting answer. He said, "My dear Lord, the material benedictions that you're offering are actually impediments on the path of devotional service. And therefore, I do not wish to accept any one of them." And he said something wonderful. He said, "My dear Lord, anyone engaged in devotional service with the expectation of material rewards is not a devotee. He's a merchant engaged in the business of give and take." So as I'm saying this, all of you please think about, are you a merchant with the Lord or are you a devotee of the Lord? And then Prahlad Maharaj said, "The only benediction I want is your assurance that I will never be induced to take a benediction for the sake of my material desires." Because, very simple, Anya abhilashita shunyam gyan karmade navratam anukuleni krishnanushilanam bhakti uttama. One can render unalloyed devotional service only when there is no material desire in the mind. So therefore, that's all I ask. Please take any material desires away from my mind. Well, the Lord was very pleased, extremely pleased with Prahlad's unalloyed devotion. But he still gave him one material benediction. He said, "You, Prahlad, would be the king of this material world until the end of this Manvantar, the end of the age of Manu, which is millions of years." And when he saw Prahlad Maharaj look kind of worried, he said, "But don't worry. I assure you that all that time you are in the material world, you will have the facility to hear my glories, and you will never lose your feeling of dependence upon me, full dependence upon me." With those assurances, Prahlad Maharaj said, fine. He accepted whatever the Lord offered him and then prayed for the Lord. Say, I do want one thing you might consider material, which is I would like to deliver my father. I know he was a demon. I know he did all these bad things, but still he was my father. So please deliver him. And the Lord said, why do you worry? 21 generations of forefathers of a pure devotee are delivered. So he's already been delivered, don't worry. Well, Brahma was still watching everything. So he showed up now, thinking the Lord is pacified, and offered his prayers, expressing his gratitude for what the Lord had done. And the Lord, only thing Lord said to Brahma was, don't do this again. Don't offer benedictions to demons, because giving them benedictions like feeding milk to poisonous snakes. They only become more dangerous. So don't do that again. And then the Lord disappeared. Okay, so I'm going to stop. It's 9:33, so just the time to stop. Any questions, comments, realizations before we close off today or tonight?
Prabhuji, just one question. When we go to Mayapur, there is this Narsingh Palli.
Yes.
Where it is said that Narsingh, Lord Narsingh Dev came and he had, he was really angry, so he cleaned his hands there and pacified himself. So when did this happen?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So clearly it happened after what we just talked about. And just means that he was pacified, but maybe not fully pacified. So actually there are few places. That's one of the places that we have gone to. But apparently there are few other places within the boundaries of India where he washed his hands. So yes, it's correct.
Okay. And also I heard somewhere that the 21 generation which have been delivered, if one becomes a pure devotee, that 21 generations are the forefathers, and also few are there something like 14 forefathers and the coming generation also, or is it like the 21 generations of the forefathers?
Yeah, so I have heard what you just said, but in the Bhagavatam it only talks about the 21 generations of forefathers. So I'm sticking with that.
Prabhuji, in the second chance, Srila Prabhupada talks about the next generations as well.
Okay, what does he say?
I think it's either 14 or 21, I'm confused. So I'm sure 21 forefathers, but and I think upcoming 14 or 21 generations, but he talks about this in the story of Ajamil, the second chance book.
So like I said, I've also heard that, but in the Bhagavatam, and you can check this is in the 10th chapter, it says 21 generations. It doesn't say anything about the future generations. And as you can see, who was the son of Prahlad Maharaj? Anybody knows?
Virochan.
Virochan, that's right. Who was he, a devotee or a demon?
I heard about him. He was a very great data donor.
A great what?
Devotee. But I don't know about devotee, but he was a great donor.
Donor of what? Donor of what?
Whoever comes like Bali Maharaj, Vaman Dev came to Bali Maharaj like that.
No, that's the next generation. So the son of Virochan was Bali Maharaj. My point was, my understanding is Virochan was a demon. So yes. I have not read any stories about Virochan being delivered. So as Sonam was saying, I have also heard the same thing about the 7 or 14 whatever generations in the future. But that's not what Bhagavatam is saying. So I'm just sticking with Bhagavatam. And you can check that by reading the 10th chapter.
But Prabhuji, in 10th chapter, when the Krishna fights with Banasur, and when Banasur is the son of Bali Maharaj, right?
Yes.
And when Banasur was a devotee of Shiva, and Shiva also came here, and when Shiva thought that Lord will kill Banasur, so he requested Lord that don't kill him. That at that time, Lord said that don't worry, I have given the promise to Prahlad Maharaj, I will not kill.
Yeah, that's a different story though. That's a different point. Yeah, it's the right story, but it's a different point. Yeah. Yes, he said that, yes, I did give a promise that I will not kill his children. So I won't kill him, don't worry about it. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about liberating and becoming a devotee.
Okay.
Sorry, Prabhu, I missed the point. Did you say Virochan was a demon?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And Prabhu, what's with this number 21, Prabhu? Why they always mention 21 generations? Even in Parshurama, we hear that. And in Bali Maharaj also, we hear that 21. What is with the number, Prabhu?
Because there's one more than 20. I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Good laugh. Good, Prabhuji, very good.
Thank
Very
you.
nice answer.
Prabhuji,
I
one
like
more
it.
question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Prabhuji, you told about Holika, who was the sister of Hiranyakashipu.
Right.
Holika is the same one that is burnt in India just before the Holi?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the celebration of that event.
Hmm.
It's the burning of the evil and saving of the good.
Good.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Sure.
Prabhuji, I want to show something to you all.
What is that mute?
It's your portrait?
No, 1 second.
Oh, wow. No, nothing.
Haribol.
Ah.
Lord Nrsimha
Oh, wow.
Devi Jai. Thank you.
You made it yourself?
No, one of my friend does. If you want to place an order, her website is Krishna Loka Creations.
Ah, you're plugging it in. Okay.
And and there's one more she did. It's very nice. It's little Damodar and Yashoda Maya.
Can't see it very nicely, but
That is beautiful too.
Yeah, it's Yashoda Maya and Damodar.
oh, now I see it. Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Nrsimha Bhavan is more beautiful.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Prabhuji, no comments. I
We
said.
always see in a movie, Prabhu. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Go
ma'am.
ahead,
You can
Maharaj.
continue.
Go ahead.
Continue, Mataji.
I always see a movie in the TV about Prahlad Maharaj and Nrsimha. So today, when you are like telling about that, I can see the picture in front of my eyes, Prabhu. It was so neat and clear, very touchy, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for your appreciation.
Prabhuji, it was no doubt it was wonderful class as always, and this one is little funny. What I am going to say, initially, like long back when I heard about Prahlad Maharaj, we always heard about Holika, and we always learned about Prahlad Maharaj in our books also. But then when, after coming to ISKCON and we heard what Prahlad Maharaj prayers were, and at that time, as we used to listen a lot of songs, so the first, when I heard the Prahlad Maharaj, when he was talking to Hiranyakashipu and to his friends, that Budapa and Javani and, youth, childhood and the old age. So every time at that time, and I remembered it today also, I used to think about that song, like Ladakpan khel mein khoya, Jawani neend भर सोया, and बुढ़ापा देख के रोया, and यही किस्सा पुराना है. I mean, this only goes round and round. So it's like.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, you
It's
will.
little unrelated, and it's just I remembered that this song I used to remember this song long back that time.
Very true. Very, very true. Thank you for sharing it. Any other questions, comments? Okay, all right then. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Kripasindhubhyascha Buddhithanam Bhavibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada
Thank
ki
you.
jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
so much,
Prabhuji.
So nice.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you,
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Prabhuji. Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, thank you.
Jai.
Prabhuji.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you again.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Hare Krishna to all.